This episode is an ESL listening practice for intermediate learners. You will hear a natural conversation with clear pronunciation and everyday English. No tests, no pressure, just listening. Let's start.
Hello, and a very warm welcome to ESL Listening Practice. I am absolutely thrilled you're joining us today.
It is so great to have you with us.
Whether you are listening on your morning commute, while you're washing the dishes, or maybe just relaxing at home with a cup of coffee, we are so glad to be part of your English learning journey.
Definitely.
I'm your host, and as always, I am joined by my fantastic co-host and fellow language enthusiast. It is great to have you here.
It is wonderful to be here. I am really looking forward to today's session.
Me too.
You know, in our line of work, we talk about grammar and vocabulary constantly. We obsess over phrasal verbs and pronunciation drills.
All the time.
But today, we are tackling something entirely different. We're tackling a mindset. We're tackling a belief system that I honestly think holds more people back than any difficult grammar rule ever could.
I completely agree. We've both been teaching for a long time, and we have seen thousands of students pass through our classrooms or use our materials. And there is this one specific fear, or maybe it's better described as a complaint, that we hear over and over and over again.
It's always the same one, isn't it?
It is. It's almost like a mental wall that people build in front of themselves. And once that wall is up, it is so hard to climb over.
It really is a wall. And the absolute tragedy of this situation is that it's an imaginary wall. It feels incredibly solid to the student standing behind it.
Oh, yeah. To them, it's real.
It feels like a genuine physical barrier to their success.
Yeah.
But in reality, it doesn't actually exist. It's a construct of their own mind.
So let's not keep them guessing. Let's introduce this big topic. The biggest question, or the biggest worry that most English learners face is this idea of location. It's the belief that says, if I don't live in an English-speaking country, I will never become fluent.
Yes, the classic geography is destiny argument. I'm not in London, I'm not in New York, I'm not in Sydney, so how can I possibly learn?
Right.
It's the idea that if you are sitting in a non-English speaking country, whether that's Japan, Brazil, Germany, or anywhere else, you're automatically disadvantaged. You believe that you can't reach that high level of fluency simply because of the soil you are standing on.
I bet a lot of our listeners are nodding their heads right now. I bet many of you feel this way.
Oh, for sure.
You might think, well, of course it's harder for me. I don't hear English at the supermarket. I don't hear English on the bus. I don't have to order my coffee in English. It feels like a very valid excuse because on the surface, it seems logical.
It feels valid, certainly. I don't want to validate that feeling. It is frustrating to not have the language around you. But I am here to tell you straight away, based on years of observation and data, that it is a myth.
A myth.
It is simply not true.
That is a strong statement. You're calling it a myth.
Completely. Look, let's just look at the reality. There are thousands, actually millions of people who have reached a C1 or C2 level of English, true mastery of the language, without ever buying a plane ticket. They have never lived in the UK or the US. They achieved fluency from their bedrooms in Hanoi, or their offices in Moscow, or their living rooms in Santiago.
And there is another side to that coin, isn't there?
Precisely. On the flip side, there are people who move to London or Los Angeles and live there for 20 years, and their English barely improves. We see this all the time.
All the time.
Immigrants who have been in the country for decades, but still struggle with basic communication.
That is such an important point. I've met people who live in English-speaking countries, but they stay in their own community.
Exactly.
They watch TV in their native language. They hang out with friends who speak their native language, and they essentially live in a bubble.
Exactly. I call it the bubble effect. You can be physically located in England, but mentally and linguistically, you are still in your home country.
So you're not actually immersed at all.
Not at all. So the core thesis for our discussion today is this. It is not about where you live. It is not about your location. It is about how you use English. It is about your lifestyle.
I love that distinction, location versus lifestyle, because you can't always change your location.
Almost never. Moving
to another country is expensive, it is complicated, there are visa issues, you have family obligations. It is not a realistic solution for, 99% of learners.
At least.
But lifestyle, that is something you can change today, right now.
Precisely. You have absolute control over your lifestyle.
Yeah.
You don't have control over international borders or immigration laws, but you have control over what you do from the moment you wake up until the moment you go to sleep. You control the inputs that enter your brain.
Okay, so that is our mission for this session. We are going to explore realistic, effective ways to improve your English from anywhere in the world.
Exactly.
We are going to break down how to create an English environment, how to build speaking habits, even if you are alone, how to use technology to your advantage, and the incredible power of consistency.
We have a lot of ground to cover, and I want everyone listening to think of this as a toolkit. You don't have to do everything we say immediately, but pick the tools that work for you. We want to show you that you can build an immersion environment right inside your own home.
Let's start with that concept then, the environment, creating an English environment. Because that is the main argument for moving abroad, isn't it?
It's the whole argument.
If I move to London, I am surrounded, I am immersed. So if we aren't in London, how do we get that environment?
Well, you have to build it. You have to be the architect of your own language environment.
The architect. I like that.
When people say they want to surround themselves with the language, they usually mean they want to hear it and see it constantly. You don't need a new country for that.
Yeah.
You just need to bring more English into your existing life. You need to change the default settings of your reality.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because it sounds nice in theory, but what does it look like in practice? Does it mean I have to put sticky notes on every piece of furniture in my house? Table, chair, lamp.
That is the old school way. And sure, if that helps you remember the word for fridge, go for it. But that is just vocabulary memorization. We're talking about something deeper.
Okay.
We're talking about media consumption. Think about how many hours a day the average person spends consuming media.
Oh, it's hours. Between phones, computers, TV, streaming services, it is a huge part of our day.
Exactly. And for many learners, that time is spent entirely in their native language. That is a massive missed opportunity.
A huge one.
The first shift is moving from passive entertainment to using media as a learning tool, but in a way that is still enjoyable.
So we are talking about videos and series, watching content in English. Now, I know some people struggle with this because they just want to relax. They want to watch the latest show and just zone out. And watching in English feels like work.
It can feel like work at first. It is cognitive labor. But this is where the environment concept is key. If you watch dubbed content where the actors are speaking English, but you hear your native language, you are killing the immersion.
You're actively fighting against your goal.
You are actively removing the English from your ears.
Dubbing is the enemy. I always tell my students that. Even if you don't understand every word, hearing the original audio is crucial.
It is vital. You get the rhythm, the intonation, the emotion of the language. You hear how people actually speak, not how a translator thinks they should speak.
Yeah.
But let's go beyond just sitting on the sofa watching Netflix. Let's talk about audio. Let's talk about podcasts.
Like this one.
Like this one. But also podcasts about hobbies, news, storytelling, true crime, history, whatever you're interested in. The magic of audio is that it is portable.
Right.
You can create an English environment while you are doing other things.
I do this all the time. I listen to things while I'm walking the dog or cooking dinner.
And that is the secret. We call it dead time. The time in your day where your body is busy, washing dishes, driving, walking, folding laundry, but your brain is free.
All right, your mind is just wandering.
If you fill that dead time with English, you are adding hours of immersion to your week without actually studying.
That is a great point. It doesn't take extra time out of your day. It just layers English on top of your existing day.
Exactly. And let's do the math on that.
Yep.
If you listen to English for 20 minutes while you commute to work and 20 minutes back, that is 40 minutes a day.
40 minutes.
That is over 3 hours a week. Over a month, that is 12 to 14 hours of listening practice. That is massive, and you didn't have to sit at a desk for a single minute of it.
It really adds up. It is about integrating the language into the fabric of your life. Now, I want to talk about another strategy for digital immersion that I think is a bit more controversial, or maybe just scary for some people.
I think I know what you're going to say.
Changing your phone language.
Ah, yes. The bold move.
It is a bold move. I remember telling a student to change their phone settings to English, and they looked at me like I was crazy.
I get that look all the time.
They said, but what if I can't find the Wi-Fi settings? What if I delete something by accident?
It is a genuine fear. Our phones are our lifelines. We manage our banking, our social lives, our work through these devices.
Everything is on there.
But that fear is exactly why it is so effective. When you change your phone or your computer interface to English, you are forcing your brain to navigate daily tasks in the target language.
It creates a necessity, doesn't it? It stops being academic and starts being practical.
It does. We call this forced necessity. You are no longer translating. You just know that settings is where the gear icon is.
Right.
You learn words like notification, privacy, storage, update, cancel, confirm. These are high-frequency words in the modern world.
Words you actually use.
And because you use your phone 100 times a day, you are reinforcing those words 100 times a day.
And it's not just the system settings, it's the apps, too. If you use social media or a Maps app, seeing the directions in English creates that immersion.
It is about signaling to your brain that English is a tool for survival.
That's a great way to put it.
If English is only something you do in a textbook, your brain treats it as academic information, like algebra or history dates.
Yeah, it's just school stuff.
But if English is the language you need to use to set your alarm clock so you wake up for work, your brain says, oh, this is important. I need to keep this information accessible.
That is fascinating. So simply by changing a setting, you are hacking your brain's prioritization system.
Absolutely. When English is in the routine, the brain learns naturally and faster. You stop thinking about it as learning English and start thinking about it as using my phone.
Which is the goal.
That's the definition of fluency.
I love that.
Yeah.
So we have set up our environment. We have English TV, podcasts in our ears during dead time, and our phone is challenging us with English menus. But there is still a missing piece.
A big one.
Input is great and necessary, but what about output? What about speaking?
This is the big hurdle. The solitary speaker.
The solitary speaker. I like that title. It sounds like a superhero, but usually it feels the opposite. It feels lonely.
It does. And this brings us to another major trap. We talked about the location trap. This is the perfect conditions trap.
Oh, I know this one well. I can't speak English because I don't have a teacher right now.
Or I can't speak because I don't have any American friends.
Yes. Or I'm waiting until I travel.
I'm waiting until I find a partner. It is this idea that speaking requires an audience. But that is a mistake.
A huge mistake.
If you wait for a partner to start speaking, you might be waiting for years. And when you finally do find a partner, you will be rusty, nervous, and your pronunciation muscles will be weak.
So the argument here is that you can and should speak even when you are completely alone.
You must.
Yeah.
If you want to be fluent, you have to get comfortable with the sound of your own voice in English. You have to train the muscles of your mouth. Speaking is a physical act. Just like playing the piano or playing tennis, you need muscle memory.
It creates a bit of a psychological hurdle, though, doesn't it? Talking to yourself. People worry they might look, well, a bit crazy.
Maybe a little. But if you are in your own home, who cares? Warn your roommates or your family if you have to.
That's true.
Honestly, it is the secret weapon of polyglots. Almost every successful language learner talks to themselves. It is a rehearsal for the real world.
So let's give our listeners some exercises, concrete things they can do, because just saying talk to yourself is a bit vague. What should they say?
Let's start with exercise 1. Narration. Describing your day out loud.
Narration. Okay, so like a sports commentator. And now he is walking to the kitchen.
Exactly like that. But maybe a bit more casual. Imagine you were getting dressed in the morning. Instead of thinking in silence, narrate the process. Okay, I'm looking for my blue shirt. Where is it? It's in the drawer. I'm opening the drawer. I'm putting it on. Now I need my socks.
That sounds simple, but I can see the benefit. You are connecting the physical action opening a drawer with the vocabulary instantly.
Yes. It is associating the word with the reality, not the word with the translation. You aren't translating from your native language. You are seeing the action and producing the English. And crucially, you uncover gaps in your vocabulary very quickly.
Oh, definitely. You realize, wait, I don't know the word for drawer or button.
And that is a good moment. That is a learning moment. You look it up, and because you needed it in a real context, you remember it better. It sticks.
I like that. So narrate your breakfast, narrate your drive to work. What else?
Exercise 2 is sharing opinions. This takes it a step further.
Okay.
Instead of just describing what you see, describe what you think.
Okay. Can you give me an example?
Let's say you just watched a movie, or you read a news article, or maybe something annoyed you at work. Stand in front of a mirror, or just pace around your room and express your thoughts.
Out loud.
Out loud. I didn't like that movie because the ending was unrealistic. I think the main character should have done this instead.
This is great because it allows you to formulate complex sentences and without any pressure.
And here's the key benefit.
Yeah.
It is a safe space. There is no fear of judgment. If you make a grammar mistake, Nobody hears it. If you stumble and need to restart the sentence, you can do it 3 times. You can't do that in a real conversation with a stranger without feeling awkward.
That's true. In a real conversation, the pressure is on. You have to respond instantly. But talking to an empty room gives you the time to experiment with the language. You can polish your sentences.
It allows you to practice the mechanics of speaking without the social pressure of speaking.
I like that distinction. And what about exercise 3?
Exercise 3 is retelling. This connects back to our listening habit. You listen to a podcast or a story earlier in the day. Now, try to summarize it out loud.
So, today I listened to a podcast about space travel, and they said that.
Exactly. This is powerful because it practices structure. You have to use the past tense. You have to sequence events. First this happened, then this happened, and finally. You have to use transition words like however, therefore, in addition.
It forces you to organize your thoughts in English.
And it checks your comprehension. If you can't retell it, maybe you didn't understand it as well as you thought.
There is a brain training aspect to all of this, isn't there? It feels like we're rewiring something.
We are. Cognitive science tells us that these exercises train the brain to think in English. When you speak out loud, you are strengthening the neural pathways between your brain and your mouth.
It's like muscle memory.
It is exactly muscle memory. If you practice these sentences alone, when you eventually get into a real conversation, the words will come out easier. Why?
Because you've already said them.
Because you have already said them 100 times in your bedroom. You aren't building the sentence for the first time, you are retrieving it.
That makes so much sense. So we've covered the solitary side, but eventually we do want to talk to humans.
Eventually, yes.
We are social animals, and language is for communication.
We can't stay in the bedroom forever. We need connection.
And this brings us to digital connections, the transition from solitary practice to real communication. And really, we live in the golden age for this.
We do. There has never been a better time in history to learn a language remotely. The world is smaller now. Telecommunication apps have completely erased the distance barrier.
So let's talk about the methods. How do we connect? Obviously, there are video calls.
Video calls are the standard. Zoom, Skype, FaceTime, face-to-face interaction with language partners. This is great because you get visual cues, you see facial expressions, you see gestures.
Yeah, it helps.
It's the closest thing to sitting in a cafe with someone.
But I know for our B2 learners, our intermediate learners, sometimes a live video call is terrifying.
It is.
It's a lot of pressure.
It is intense. Everything happens in real time. You have to listen, process, think of a reply, and speak, all in seconds. And that can cause people to freeze up.
It really can.
And that is why I want to highlight another method. Voice messages.
Voice messages, like on WhatsApp or Telegram.
Yes. Asynchronous communication. This is a game changer for intermediate learners.
Why do you think it is better or different than a call? What's the specific advantage?
It reduces anxiety. Think about it. When you record a voice message, you have a moment to think before you hit record. You can gather your thoughts.
Right.
And if you start recording and you make a huge mistake or you get stuck, you can cancel it and start again.
That safety net is huge. It removes the fear of failure.
Exactly. It allows you to participate in a conversation, but at a slightly slower pace. You can listen to your partner's message twice if you didn't catch it the first time. Then you can formulate your reply. It bridges the gap between writing, which is slow and perfectly edited, and live speaking, which is fast and messy.
That is a great analysis. It's a stepping stone, a really useful one.
And you can do it throughout the day. You can have an ongoing conversation with a friend in Brazil or Canada that lasts all day, just sending messages back and forth when you have time.
And then there are group chats. Communities of learners.
These are fantastic for feeling like part of a tribe. Realize you aren't alone.
Now, a big question comes up here. Who do we talk to? Everyone wants to talk to a native speaker. I only want to talk to someone from London or New York.
That is the gold standard for many, yes. And platforms exist to connect you with them. But I want to offer an important insight here. Do not undervalue speaking with other learners.
Really? Because people worry, if I talk to another learner, won't I learn their mistakes? Won't we just have bad accents together?
That is a very common fear, but it is largely unfounded at the intermediate level. You aren't going to catch a bad accent like a cold.
That's a good way to put it.
The benefit of speaking with another learner, let's say someone from Spain talking to someone from Japan in English, is that you are practicing communication. You are negotiating meaning.
And usually fellow learners are more patient, aren't they?
They are. They understand the struggle. They're in the same boat. It provides real conversation practice without the intimidation factor of talking to a native speaker who might speak very fast, use slang you don't know, or not understand why you are struggling.
It's a confidence builder, a massive one.
Exactly. If you can successfully communicate a complex idea to another learner, that is a huge win. You are using English as a bridge. That is the definition of success.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, in a modern world, you are just as likely to use English with a non-native speaker for business as you are with a native speaker.
That is very true. Global English is the reality. I love that perspective. Don't ignore the non-native speakers. They are great partners.
Absolutely.
Moving on to the social aspect. We've talked about one-on-one connections, but what about groups? What about the social energy of a classroom or a club?
This brings us to the social element. Speaking clubs and courses.
Speaking clubs are fascinating. I think they are one of the fastest ways to build confidence.
I agree. And again, you have options. You can find online clubs with international reach where you log into a Zoom room with people from 10 different countries. Or you can find real-life clubs in your city.
Even in non-English speaking countries.
Especially there. If you live in a big city, there's almost certainly an English conversation club.
Where would you find one?
Maybe at a library, a university, or just a meetup group at a local cafe or pub.
So what actually happens in these clubs? I think people are afraid it's going to be like a test.
It's not a test. That is the most important thing to know. Usually you discuss everyday topics. Travel, food, technology, culture, movies.
So casual conversation, low pressure.
Yes. And because it is a group, the spotlight isn't always on you. You can listen. You can chime in when you have something to say. You practice pronunciation in a flow state.
Flow state. That's when you get so absorbed in the activity you forget you are studying, right?
Exactly. You stop thinking about grammar rules and start thinking about the topic. If you are debating the best pizza topping, you are passionate about the pizza, not the present perfect tense.
That's a great example.
That is when real acquisition happens. You learn naturally through the dynamic of conversation.
But we have to address the anxiety.
Yes, we have to.
I know so many listeners are thinking, I would be too shy. I would be shaking. I would be afraid of making a fool of myself.
That is a natural human reaction. Walking into a room of strangers and speaking a foreign language is brave. It is scary. We call it the spotlight effect. You think everyone is looking at you and judging you.
So what do you say to the person who is afraid? What's the one thing they need to hear?
I say this. Everyone else in that room is feeling the exact same thing.
That is so comforting.
It is the truth. Everyone is there to improve. They are not there to judge you. They are worried about their own grammar, their own accent, their own vocabulary. They aren't analyzing yours.
That is such a key mindset shift. The environment is for growth, not judgment.
And usually within 10 minutes of joining a club, that fear evaporates. You realize people are just friendly and want to chat.
So take the risk. Go to the meeting.
Go. It might be the best thing you do for your English this year.
We have covered a lot of strategies: environment, solitary speaking, digital connections, social clubs. But there is one glue that holds this all together. Without this last piece, none of the other stuff works. Habits versus intensity. This is where most people fail, isn't it?
It is. We see this every January. People treat English like a crash diet. They say, I'm going to study for 5 hours this Saturday. I'm going to learn 100 words.
And then they don't touch it for the rest of the week because they are exhausted and burnt out.
And that is almost useless. I want to challenge the idea of study. We need to redefine it. You don't need to sit at a desk for hours. In fact, for memory retention, you probably shouldn't.
So what is the alternative, if not these long, intense sessions?
Micro habits. The power of small, consistent actions.
Give us the numbers. What are we talking about? How small is small?
15 to 20 minutes a day. That is sufficient if, and this is a big if, only if, it is consistent.
That sounds almost too easy. 15 minutes. Really?
Think about the math. 15 minutes a day is nearly 2 hours a week. But more importantly, it keeps the software loaded in your brain.
What do you mean by that?
If you study for 5 hours on Sunday and then nothing until next Sunday, your brain spends the first hour of the next session just trying to remember what you did last time. You're constantly relearning, not building.
It's like exercise. You can't go to the gym for 10 hours once a month and expect to get fit.
Exactly. You will just get injured or exhausted. Small daily practice is more powerful because of how memory works. Your brain needs sleep cycles to consolidate memory. If you practice a little bit every day, you are constantly reinforcing those neural pathways. You keep the language active.
So let's look at integration examples again. How do we fit this 15 minutes in without stressing ourselves out?
It goes back to the lifestyle. Listen while driving or commuting. That's 10 minutes right there.
Okay.
Read one page of a book before bed. That's 5 minutes. Speak to yourself while making coffee. That's 5 minutes.
And boom, you have done 20 minutes before you even realized it.
Exactly. You didn't make time for English. You didn't sacrifice your free time. You just did English with your life.
And the accumulative effect is massive.
Over months, this compounds. It's like compound interest in a bank account. Those small moments add up to massive progress. You look back after 6 months and realize, wow, I can understand this podcast without subtitles now. And it happened almost without you noticing the effort.
That is the dream. So we are coming to the end of our discussion today. We have busted the myth, built the environment, and established the habits.
We have, and I hope the listeners are feeling a sense of relief. Yes, relief that they don't need to quit their job and move to London.
That is a relief. Let's do a final reality check. Living abroad.
Verdict. It can help. Of
Okay.
course it can help. Being immersed 24/7 is intense and effective.
But it is not necessary. That is the takeaway.
You can achieve your goals right where you are sitting.
Absolutely. No question.
So let's give them a checklist for success. If they want to start today, what are the 3 pillars?
Pillar number 1, surround yourself with English. Build that environment. Media, phone settings, audio.
Pillar number 2, speak regularly with real people. Use the apps, find a partner, join a club. Connection is key.
And pillar number 3, the glue.
Make English part of your lifestyle. Habits, not intensity. Consistency is king.
You have a great way to remember this. You call it the 3 C's of fluency.
Yes. If you forget everything else we said today, remember the 3 C's. Fluency is about connection, consistency, and courage. Connection with the language and with people, consistency in your daily habits, and courage.
Courage is important. You mentioned it with the speaking clubs.
It might be the most important one. The courage to look silly, the courage to make mistakes, the courage to speak to an empty room or send that voice note. That is the engine of progress.
That is wonderful advice. And on that note of courage, I want to encourage every single one of you listening right now. Start today.
Right.
Don't wait for Monday. Don't wait for the new year.
Change one setting on your phone. Speak one sentence out loud to your mirror. Just one.
That's all it takes to start. Break the silence. You have the tools, and now you have the strategy. Thank you so much for listening to ESL Listening Practice. We are rooting for you.
We certainly are. Keep practicing, keep listening, and we will see you next time.